Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I'm talking with my friend Spencer here, who has a computer, but it does not have a camera. So he gets to remain mysterious. Ooh.
Ooh.
But Spencer notified me a little while ago, and because I put out a call tweet about people wanting to join the show. He's like, "Yeah, fuck, man, I'm on any day you want." So I needed someone for today, and he very much obliged. So welcome to the show, Spencer.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Neil. It's always nice to help out the cause out there, and a little bit nervous, but I think we'll muddle through.
Man, I wish I could still drink right now, but I'm on blood thinners right now, so I can't really drink.
Oh,
So I got to drink water, but I can pretend I'm drinking and
yeah.
act drunk, I guess. That might ease up some of the nervousness. I don't know.
Oh,
But anyways, what I do here is I chat with people about their journeys away from their previous belief systems, and I generally ask, take us back to the time when you were like rightfully indoctrinated in there, and how those dominoes fell to helping you find your way out. Like we started doubting, questioning, stuff like that.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. You want me to jump into it, or yeah, specific questions you
Oh
want
yeah.
to
No,
ask?
jump right in and just
How far back
tell
is
your
too far
story.
back? Because you and I both
Oh,
hear those stories where the guy's like, and then in third grade, my teacher, so I won't.
if there's something that was
Yeah,
important to the
pertinent.
story,
No,
then sure.
I'll breeze past most of that stuff. But yeah, so I was raised in Utah with what we call fifth, sixth generation LDS family Mormon faith, um, and not untypical story, but it's my story, and so I'll
Mhm.
kind of it's important to me and on the deconversion. But yeah, just raised in church, and looking back, of course, I was told it was true by people I trusted, same people that told me that the stove was hot and that
Yeah.
vitamins were good for you. So they were indoctrinated too. I look back and I realize we're all kind of my thought is there's two kinds of folks that are Mormon. It's there's victims and perpetrators, and so
Mhm.
these folks that my parents, of course, were victims as indoctrination, just like I was. I mean, it's just kind of I think everybody kind of runs against that when you get to that. So grew up and served at those LES missions. So if you lived in Georgia, there's a good chance I knocked on one of your doors. There's some
Well,
towns
I've
that
never lived in Georgia.
yes, small little towns. In the big picture, people are like, well, what are you doing here in Georgia? We all know about Jesus. Why don't you go to China and like that? And that's there are good Baptist folks there, and I learned that. That's one of the things that I would mention. I realized that because as growing up, just insulated as I was in Utah, I hardly ever met anybody that was what called a non-member, non-Mormon.
Right.
They're few and far between, but you see them, and then they just wanted to sin. They're just bad people, and
Right.
it took me a long time to realize that you can smoke and still be a good person. You can drink and still be a good person. You're not out there to destroy God's Christian country. You're you can be a good dad
Having a
and
beer.
yeah. But that to me was scary when I remember going with my dad into a Catholic church to visit. Um, I can't remember the details. I was real little, but he was we were doing something with sod, borrowing their still getting their sod. They were donating there or something. And I
Mhm.
remember just being really scared we were in there because they're working for Satan. I mean
Right.
that guy was working for Satan. Now he might have had some problems that later popped up with the Catholic Church, but I you know what I mean. I was literally scared that the devil was going to come grab me. That's how indoctrinated it was.
Wow.
There's us and everybody else.
Right. Right.
Us. It's
Of
just that
course.
siege mentality. So yeah, served a mission and what would have helped? I'll tell you is what would have
Tribalism,
helped.
by the way, is
Yeah,
what it is.
tribalism,
Doesn't matter.
absolutely. Anything that doesn't look like us is bad, and I get
Yeah.
that. If I would have, the day before I left my mission, so you go to depends on where you live, but you go to a church-owned facility, and they put you up, and you're there for weeks, months, maybe, depending on if you have to learn a new language. And if they would have taken us in the room the day before and said, by the way, here's some things you might hear about the church that are true, but that we really don't mention. For example, the leader uh, was a polygamist. He married other men's wives. If they would have laid out some of the stuff that I didn't hear about growing up, that would have saved a lot of people. Maybe not me, but that would have saved a lot of Mormons from dropping the church. They're dropping like flies. The progressives and anybody who questions anything is really struggling with the religion right now. I can't say that about everybody, but there are people that are. There's a big movement in the Mormon Church that people are quitting and having their names removed because of just the.
Really?
So yeah, it's maybe it's a big deal to me, like because you remember the Osmonds were a big deal to me too. So I don't really know what to define a big deal. I literally.
Fuck. You just took me back to the 70s, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I was convinced the Osmonds and the Jackson 5 were basically vying for number one. I thought that was a real thing. That's how. Do
you remember the cartoons?
Yeah, I do.
Jackson 5 cartoons?
Yeah, I do.
Oh
I do. I'm an old fart. So, yeah. So if I've often thought about that. Like if they would have brought us aside, but instead I had to learn that information from people I was trying to convert to Mormons and say, well, do you know your prophet, Joe Smith? He married other guys' wives. And I'm like, that's not true. And that because that's what I wasn't taught that. I had no idea. They just left that out. And I had to look that up. And when I looked that up, I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's true, but there must be a reason for it. It took me till years later to dig up. But what ex-Mormons call this is shelf that we put our disbelief, Husbands versus Jackson 5. We put on our shelf these disbelief things, these things that you're kind of puzzled, like, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to put this on the shelf over here. That Joseph Smith, the leader of the Mormon Church, was a polygamist. When they don't teach you that. Brigham Young was the one that did the polygamist, and there's all these reasons for it, and it made sense, and the Lord needed them to, and they had blah blah blah.
Of course, special pleading.
Yeah, there's no way that Joseph Smith needed to marry other men's wives, and the youngest victim was 14. And that turned my stomach a little bit. Yeah, gross. So
yeah.
So like I said, I thought about that. Like if they would have brought us in and said, here's the deal. Here's what you're going to hear out there. Here's why it's not true. Don't worry about it. Whatever, pray to God and get the feelings. And I need to mention that too. You're taught as a Mormon that those feelings of euphoria or the spirit, the burning of the bosom, there's this
burning
feeling,
of the bosom.
Burning of the bosom. That's
what the hell is that?
Yeah, that's God talking to you. So we're taught that we're little God detectors inside.
I thought maybe it was some game you guys played that burnt off nipple hair.
I'm sure it is now. I'm sure it's a drinking game now somewhere. But you're taught that this burning is the Lord is God Himself talking to you, telling you this stuff is true. Now, again, little thing to put on your shelf as well. I get the same feeling at a really nice concert. A little Rush, little Styx, little Boston. Yeah. When more than a feeling comes out, you get that tingle. You get that. The American flag when it comes up.
For me, it was Sabbath.
Yeah, Black Sabbath. When they get up there and hit those lights, that feeling, that's the spirit. That's the spirit.
Is that what that is?
That's what we were taught. That's God telling you that this is true. That's
right.
That's
Sabbath is true.
Yeah, absolutely. Ozzy Osbourne is true. And so yeah, you're taught that these feelings of euphoria, these little tingles you get is God's way of talking to you. You ignore the misses. So when it happens at a Black Sabbath concert and you ignore that, or a beautiful sunset, or a 4th of July celebration or something like that, you ignore that because that's not God. But if you're asking if the Book of Mormon's true, or if you should marry this gal, or which box of cereal you should have, I'm being a little pedantic, but that's okay. That's the Lord. So fast forward to that. Come home from mission. Mormon people, you can't have sex if you want to be in good standing until you're married. What? That's definitely no. Yeah, definitely. If they even masturbation. Yeah, no, yeah. And masturbation, which I just personally discovered, like Magellan, is discouraged as well. So you're a Mormon missionary. You can't date. Even if you could date, you couldn't have sex. You
No cop and feels nothing.
No. Oh,
Oh, fuck.
I never touched a girl for the whole entire time I was out there. Maybe shaking her hand. Oh, you know what? I had a cute gal. I had a cute gal cut my hair, and that was about as close as you get. But yeah, and also you can't release that. I mean, it's just you're told that no masturbation, you'll get sent home, and so you kind of have to work. So you get interviewed by.
Wait, hold it. What do you mean you'll get sent home?
So you're a volunteer. You're a volunteer out there.
Yeah, but why would you masturbate there? Wouldn't you wait till you got home?
You're living on your own. You're going to find a partner and a companion, and you have other missionaries that are leaders over you, and then they have one like a volunteer guy. He is paid, but I'm not sure the details on that. But an adult, a dad usually with a wife and kids, and they come out there. But he comes and checks on all his interviews. So or all his missionaries interviews them all. They're scattered throughout. My situation, they were scattered throughout Georgia. And he sits down with you and ask you, how's the work going? How you working hard? Are you baptizing people? And how's your worthiness? And are you masturbating? And
just slide that in.
Just slide that in, yeah. And it's just a uncomfortable. You kind of have to well, I sure try not to, and sometimes a little bit of morning wood, and you just sometimes I'm cleaning my weapon and it goes off. And you just have to make it sound like it's no problem, and then you're okay. But if they're, the word on the street was habitual masturbators go home.
Right.
So you're just screwed. No matter what you're not screwed. And so
that's the problem.
And every missionary's dream is, well, elder, what would happen? They're called elders. What would happen if a van pulls up? They kidnap your companion and then throw you in the van, and there's a woman in there and she forces you to have sex with her. What would you do? And in my back of my mind, I'm like, I would enjoy the hell out of that. That would be great. But you have to, I would just, if she's forcing you, I don't know. I guess you just have to relax and let it happen. So you don't get, so we'd always discuss these silly things like that. But anyway,
I can't believe somebody would actually ask that, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a topic. I've heard that more than one missionary is.
It's like they're just vocalizing a fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your life is pretty Spartan. I mean, it's not much different than the monk, and so you got to have a few things. But so come home and want to get married so I can have sex, and that's typical. A lot of folks, you get married in the temple, and that's and what's sad is for many Mormon people, especially the gals, that's the goal and the end, and there's not a lot taught after that. They don't by the way, let's talk about retirement. Let's talk about being a Mormon and having a career and how to be a successful, strong, independent woman with a job and an independent income, and you don't need your man, and here's how to, none of that. It's your goal is to get married in the temple and have kids, and then that's it. That's all the direction they really have. Wow. Yeah, and so there's a lot of gals out there in their late 20s that have 3 or 4 kids, and like, well, this is it? Is this all I'm really good for? I gave up a career for this. I was going to go to school. And now we just taught that I was supposed to just go to
be a baby factory.
Be a baby factory, yeah, and that's not with everybody. I'm painting with a broad brush, but I'm showing that stuff. Sure. So time passes by, and I tell you that one of the shelf things that I put on my shelf, when my firstborn was born and get him home from the hospital, and I was just thinking, look at this baby. He's just amazing. I love this. By the way, can I swear on this show? Or we?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay. I didn't grow up swearing. I'm not very good at it, so you'll hear a little. but I hold this little baby, and I remember, I don't know if you remember, maybe it was Roots. I can remember. There was some show where the dad brings this baby out in the moonlight and holds it up to God and thanks him, Mm-hmm. And I kind of do the same thing. Maybe I'm worried about going to drop the baby, so don't hold him up. But I remember just thinking, oh, this is a perfect. Thank you for this son of mine. This couldn't be any better. This is amazing. I will love this child. I will cherish this child. I would die for this baby, and I'm so amazed that I get it and so lucky. And then, for whatever reason, I just remembered the story of Abraham and Isaac. And I realized at that moment that if God came down in all his glory with a flaming sword and said, "You're going to have to kill this baby for me," I realized right then I would say, "Fuck you, God. Fuck you. Fuck you." There's
Mm-hmm.
no way I would ever, ever. I don't care. I don't care what are you going to do to me? I don't care. I will. There's no. I would rather die. And I just remember thinking that story's bullshit. What dad would think that's a great thing, and that's what it's lauded as in
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
is how Abraham was so righteous and so holy that God knew he would do whatever he asked him to do. I'm like, no, that's an asshole move. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of put that on the, again, I was like, that's gonna be a secret I'm gonna keep between myself and God, is that he can kiss my ass. There's just no way I would ever do that. And so that, so time passes on. I'll make this a little faster, but so
Oh, we
several
got lots of
children,
time, dude.
okay, several children later, life's going on, and my career is in the science field. Let's put it that way. And so I had this great understanding of the way the world works. This great tool that was being given to us through hard work. Not God never handed it to anything to anybody, but he,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the method of gathering information and evaluating data, and so I had this system of I only believe things with evidence, and I got really good. In fact, I don't give too much away, but in the educational field, let's put it that way, I was a science teacher. So quickly
That's what
when
you
people,
are, a science teacher?
that was my first career, yes, science
Okay.
teacher, high school level, junior high school level, and I
You'd have been a
quickly.
cool teacher.
Yeah, thanks. I think I was. I like to think I was. But I was kind of known as the no nonsense guy. Like if you send out an email to all the teachers saying, "Hey, Bill Gates will donate $5 if you'll send this picture of Penny around, this kidnapped girl," I was the first one to go, "This is bogus. This isn't
Mhm.
true. Don't send this around. That's." And I'm sure you remember all those emails that
Oh,
people
yeah,
got.
email spams. Yeah, you bet, yeah.
The gangs are putting AIDS tipped needles in
Yeah, yeah.
phone booth slots. Don't, be careful. Just all this stuff. And I would just quickly, snoops it or Google it, or, I just quickly was able, I was just the guy that does, just would break down your myth or your conspiracy or whatever it was.
Right
But
on.
I never turned that spotlight of reason and evidence to my beliefs
Right.
until, and this is kind of what finished me off, was there was a moment that there was a thing happened. I don't need to go into details, but I needed God intervention. That's the only thing that would help with this. It was a financial situation. I wasn't asking for a new boat or a new pair of shoes or a new hunting rifle.
Mhm.
It was for my family. It wasn't for me. I needed this, and I had it worked out. Like, okay, well, I need this to happen. Dear God, gave him plenty of time. Did all the things you fast and you pray really hard, and you just had to
Mhm.
make it happen. Um, and it didn't happen. I'm like, what? I wasn't even asking for me. I've done all this for you. I've been good all my life. Sure, I did masturbate. I invented it, as a matter of fact. Like I said, I thought it. Oh, well, another thing, really quickly. I this is how damaging the church is.
Mhm.
I walked around from the time I'm 11, 12, 13, all up to after I transitioned out of the church, thinking that there's a good chance I'm going to go to hell. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old boy thinking because I masturbated, I'm going to burn in hell. I'll never see my mom again. I'll
Mhm.
never. If I die right now, I can't die, because if I die, I'll never see my mom again. My mom will never know what happened. Maybe they tell her. Maybe like, well, Dave, he masturbated, so he can't hang out with you. And so that's
That's
horrible.
so fucking, yeah,
That's horrible.
it's
Damaging.
it's
Damaging.
child abuse, man.
Child abuse. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it didn't stop me. I mean,
No,
you
no, I
know,
know, 'cause you
and find
in
out
the
later
moment.
that's normal, natural, which is how
Oh, yeah.
even as a practicing Mormon, I made sure my kids all knew. You know what? It's perfectly normal. A lot more damage comes from walking around thinking you're a bad person. If you're doing it 12 times a day and there's, that's going to
It
be
might be a
bad.
problem.
It might be a problem. But if it's just something that natural, normal happens, this is not a big deal.
Yeah,
Relax,
knock one out of
kids.
the park every other day. It's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's healthy and normal. It's just part of life.
Good for the
So
prostate, apparently.
absolutely, the older you get, yeah, absolutely. You have that helps.
Yeah,
We,
all
we
the
can, and you can use that if you need to as a bargaining chip. I'm going to die if I don't get some help here.
yeah,
So
yeah.
well, and so I had all these things on my shelf, and then so that was really a big one when I really when you actually needed the big guy to come through and he didn't. That I was just like, there's only two reasons that could happen. Either he can't, well, or won't, or he doesn't exist. And that was the first time. Why this is why Christian boys look so lustful at women. Absolutely, there's all kinds of weird things going on in your head. But that was really a big question for me. Is that why did that happen? And so I just put that on the shelf, continued on, and then the church has since come out. I'm sure you've heard of it's like you got to be mean to gay people to be a Mormon. And I knew that the science didn't support that. And then this happened, and then what really busted it up was I was reading a thing. I don't know how much detail to go into. There's a lot of offshoots with the Mormon Church. A lot of offshoots. There was reorganized Mormons, the fundamental LDS. There was a guy that took a bunch of folks down to southern Utah named Warren Jeffs, and he just look at him. He had polygamist after he had all these wives, and they were young and just he's just kind of a filthy. The Mormons, the mainstream Mormons of Salt Lake that follow the Salt Lake church, they look down on polygamy as like that was a thing a while back. You can still be married in heaven to more than a couple women, but that's something filthy pedophiles do now. Anybody who tries to do polygamy now in the Mormon church is excommunicated.
I'm not entirely sure how they connect polygamy with pedophilia.
Well, the same way they put, if you know how people who hate gays will suddenly talk about pedophiles. They're like, oh, if you're gay, you're also a pedophile. Okay. Yeah, it's not it's just kind of this. You paint him with that brush of the devil brush, and so there's all this going on with these southern Utah fundamental LDS Warren Jeffs guys, and we all know they're brainwashed, and the Mormons are just you're poo-pooing them and the poor. And I ran across a couple of polygamous kids in my educational career, and they good kids. I mean, they were messed up. Their fundamental view of the world wasn't the correct. They rejected reality basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing this poster that showed all these things that were happening about that this guy has multiple wives. This guy, married a young 14-year-old, forced her into it. He did this, that, the other. Isn't that horrible about Warren Jeffs? I'm like, yeah, that's horrible. And then they said, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't Warren Jeffs. That's Joseph Smith. What? What? And then I started
shock
digging.
And awe.
Shock and awe. I had no idea, and it didn't took very much research. I had to read stuff that I had been told all my life was anti-Mormon literature. It wasn't anti-Mormon literature. It was people saying, oh, by the way, this happened and this happened. Your church history is pretty tainted. There's this, and that's when my shelf broke.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that last little bit that Joseph Smith had married a 14-year-old, had multiple wives, married other men's wives. I'm like, and now could the church still be true and God still be around? And sure, and maybe Joseph Smith just got twisted around a little bit, power went to his head a little bit, all that. But that was the beginning of the end for me. Just snapped everything, and I'm like, there's no reason to think he, So once you start questioning, that's you kind of went downhill from there. So then I started just reading voraciously and listening, and also Christopher Hitchens comes along. And what's interesting, the Mormon Church primes you to be an atheist because you're told
Really?
all your life. Oh yeah, because you're told from day one, the Mormon Church, the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, the only church that has the truth on the earth. Now they've backed off that a little bit because it's so offensive, obviously. But if you're told that from all, you're told that from day one.
They all do that, Spencer. They all say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, speaking of burning the bosom, and again, another thing that I remember hearing a Baptist use that phrase. Yeah, I felt the burning in the bosom. I know my church is true. I'm like, whoa, you can't use that. That's us. You can't, you know what I mean? So then I realized that other people,
Lies.
yeah. So I turned my scientific light, reason, evidence, logic. I turned that on my church, and it came apart so quickly. So quickly. And because I'm told that this is the only true church, well, this isn't true. Oh shit, that means I'm not going to go to the Baptist church. I'm not going to go to the Jehovah's Witness. I mean, they all suck. They're worse than mine, and mine isn't true. And it took weeks, maybe months. But then, I mean, I'm just an atheist because I tried to because my view of God was like he was very grandfatherly. He come on, Dave, you can do it. Come on,
Really?
but
Did you have
yeah.
like the white beard guy and
Yeah.
all that?
Oh, yeah. But he loved me because I was special and I was Mormon. I was special and I had the truth. Remember, I was had the truth.
Of
But
course.
because I served a mission for him and I held my babies up to him and
I
told him
keep
how.
picturing the Lion King when you do
Yeah,
that.
that's exactly.
I think Rafiki's going to come out and put this
Caramba! Yeah.
put the little fucking signs
Yeah.
on or symbols on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, but as I quickly as that God fell away, I realized that guy doesn't exist, or if he does exist, like these in the Bible, he's a complete asshole.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
it just quickly fell away. And next thing you know, I was an atheist, and it only took a couple weeks I only went from probably about maybe a month to go from Joseph Smith was a prophet to Joseph Smith's not a prophet to God, there's no
Joseph
God.
Smith's an asshole.
An
Con man.
asshole, yeah. And rapist. What else? What else do you
Yeah.
call someone who has sex with a 14-year-old? I don't care.
Yeah.
And I've argued with Mormons about this before. Fine. Oh wait, they were married. Show me the marriage certificate. Show me the marriage
Yeah.
license. Did he get the marriage license? Who performed the ceremony? No.
What about the golden fucking plates? Like seriously.
Yeah. Well, So that's another nice little thing that your audience probably has heard of. Some of them probably heard about it. Some of them haven't. So it turns out. So I was raised. Joseph Smith sat down with these gold plates. He carried him through the woods. The angel showed him where they were. He had to go back every year to interview with this angel, see the plates, and get told stories. You can't have them yet. You can't have them yet. You're not old enough, but I want you to know they're here. Come back the same time next year. So for 3-4 years, this happens. He gets tutored by the Lord and the angels, and then he gets the plates, and he has a hard time getting him even to his home because there's these bad guys that are trying to take him away from him. And I'm eating up all this story, and then he gets him
Disney
home.
movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It would make a great movie. Only here's the problem: you can't carry gold plates that heavy. You can't run through the woods with them in a sack and get home in any time. I mean,
it's more like fucking dragging.
Yeah, you need a horse and a wagon. But
yeah.
the story is, and then he sits down with those and he puts on this. When he found the plates, he found these special optical equipment that lets him see the word. So he looks at it, and it's just Japanese looking, and it says Chevy trucks or something. There's no Chevy truck in the Book of Mormon, but no, that kind of attitude. Yeah. So he looks in and it says, and it came to pass, and this happened, and they did this. So that's what I was told, and he wrote it down or said it out loud, and somebody else wrote it down in the other room, and you couldn't even see these gold plates. Couldn't even see them. Big freaking clue. If you can't see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, maybe you should. But no one saw him. Nobody saw him for while he had it for a while. And then anyway, so that's a story, and what a great story that how they're translating. That's the best translation ever. Then you find out when I was on my mission from other people that weren't members that he never even used the book, the golden plates. He actually looked in a hat, had a rock in there that he used to tell people where water was or where treasure was or where. He was running this scam before he ever became more. I'm thoroughly convinced, and I could be changed. My beliefs could be changed with evidence, because I'm an evidence-based believer now. He could have. My opinion is he wrote the book to make money. The book didn't sell, but it spawned a religion that did, and he milked it for all he could get. It wasn't. He didn't set out being to form a religion. He's just going to write an adventure book, a cool book about these Indians and Native Americans, and they come from Jerusalem and they fight
What?
and they. Oh yeah, that's what's in the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is a story of supposedly of a branch of folks before Jesus leave Jerusalem, come over to America, and settle it over here. And everyone went nuts when they found those cities of Tenochtitlan or whatever, those buried cities there. That was proof for all the Mormons. And then but now science shows that that's
too old.
Yeah, that's not, you can't, that's not the way it is. So all these little just shelf breakers, but like I said, I finally just turned that light of science, reason, logic, and evidence to all this stuff, and it just falls apart and now you find many angry ex-Mormons because it's such an obvious scam. Why didn't we see it coming?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think I'm quite like that. I get it. I like I said at the beginning, I was raised by people who, indoctrinated me and their victims. But
also, Spencer, you got to remember, it's just as made up as every other religion
right,
that
absolutely,
has ever been.
Absolutely. And it's easy to call out other people on their shit. Scientologist, what an idiot. How could you be such a Scientologist? Said the Mormon. Jehovah's Witness, how could you, or Seventh-day Adventist? Oh, geez, come on, people. And
you guys got it all wrong.
You're throwing all these rocks as a Mormon. And I was just as fervent missionary as any of them out there, just explaining how. In fact, I do remember when I mentioned this part about the first time I heard Joseph Smith had wives. I'm on a street corner. Well, it's in a neighborhood, and it's very rural, very out there in the middle of nowhere. But this guy walked up to us, and he was saying, "Yeah, so Joseph Smith had multiple wives." And no, he didn't. I got really mad, and I remember thinking, "I'm going to punch this guy. I'm going to punch him in the face for Jesus. I am so mad at this guy." And I looked around.
My Jesus boxing gloves.
Yeah, there's me and my companion. Our car's right over there. This guy lives somewhere near here, but there's nobody looking out here, and I can get away with it. I remember just thinking, I was just so mad that he was insulting my beloved prophet Joseph Smith, and come to find out everything he said was true. I'm glad I didn't punch the guy. I obviously would have been horrible. As a missionary, it would have been horrible. What if we called the cops? What if I'd hurt him? What if, I think about that now. I hope I wouldn't have punched him too hard, but I remember being left hook. Yeah, I remember just being really mad about that. And turns out he was right. I was wrong. And the Mormon church is just, like I said, it is bleeding the pores. That's one thing that makes me feel a bit better, is that a lot of folks, not everybody, not a lot of people, it's your social work, like it's your social world, it's your economic world. There's people that work for the church that they'll be the last people out. But I always joke about, like, I hope the last Mormon out turns off the lights.
Yeah, so nobody else gets sucked in.
Yeah, and I still have family. I have to be. That's one reason I'm careful. I still have family very much into that firstborn son of mine I talked about. He's very much into it. We've talked about it, and there's this, that when people get challenged on their beliefs, their false beliefs, there's a propensity to double down.
Yes.
And that's kind of what he did. And so what he feels like is that, Dad, you've been led away by the devil, and so you don't have that spirit anymore about you, and so everything you hear just leads you farther away. And I think it's the way he justifies that, because he knows I'm a good person. It's a lot easier to think, well, my dad's just a little deluded, than to think, well, I might be wrong. But with family, you got to be really careful. I'd rather have the relationship than having him out of the church. I kind of monitor really closely. Are there decisions he's making based on this false belief? And so far he's been okay.
That's right. Good.
And most people, when you pray for something, like, dear God, what job should I take? You notice that you never take the job you didn't really want. God always tells you to take the job you did want. So
Of course.
it's pretty
That's
harmless in the most part.
that kind of goes along the lines with the God only helps those who help themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So,
God only gets you the job that you wanted.
mm, mm,
There you go.
absolutely. So that's kind of where I'm at with my little faith thing,
How
and
many how many folks though in your immediate family are still believers?
probably half,
Okay.
probably a little bit more than half. And like I said, it's something we don't. I've talked about it with him before, and I try and go slow. I try and not undermine their belief, but rather let's talk about. Now we know the flood didn't happen, guys. We know the flood didn't. There is absolutely zero evidence, and there should be plenty
Mhm.
that the worldwide flood didn't happen. And so then they can spin that.
Mhm.
And so then I have to say, okay, so what else in the Bible has been spun? What else do you have to put aside logic, evidence, and reason for?
The
And then,
Exodus?
yeah, the Exodus. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And if they'll stay, but those conversations have to be just few and far between. I just kind of let them
Mm.
bring it up and enjoy being with them. But yeah, there's a lot of folks that have fallen, they call it falling away. You're falling away when you lose your testimony. And it's,
Yeah.
what you really did is just you got out of the scam. And
Yeah.
so there's a movement among, it's called what is it? Leave Mormonism. There's websites dedicated to it. So to get out of the church, you have to. It's like any other religion. You have to like send a letter to the presiding authorities and ask them to remove your name. And then there's some time they get to respond. And so at first it was a real big deal where they would come and talk to you and try and talk you out of it, and try and keep you in there. And
Mhm.
now that's more. I think it's getting more. They've realized that there's a lot of folks that are leaving, and they have to start processing these quicker. I think they got sued once because they delayed it so long that so there was a lawsuit brought in, and so they were like, oh, you know what, we better honor these requests. And so what they'll tell you on the numbers they show on the books are not what's in the pew, not what's
Right.
showing up. People, there's a lot, and it could be said though that I'm saying that because I'm on the other side and I want to make it sound like it's better. But there are quite a few people that, especially with COVID, they're like, oh gosh, I can still feel good as myself and stay home, and they can broadcast it. I can do it on YouTube. Why don't we just do it on YouTube every Sunday? And I can stay in my pajamas.
Yeah,
And so
exactly. Yeah.
so there's a lot of folks, but that's kind of a movement that and then they really missed the ball with this with the gay. There was a decision. Here's the problem with the Mormon Church. If you claim that you have a prophet that has the ear to God, which they do, and you claim that you get divine revelation for the whole world, which they do,
Mhm.
then if that guy, it's hard to throw that guy under the bus. Now they've done it with Brigham Young and the black people. That the way they've been racist. The LDS Church has a Mormon Church is just institutionally racism, where the for anybody had any black blood in them at all. If
Mhm.
if even your mixed marriage, there was hell to pay for that. That person couldn't be the highest member of the church. They couldn't have the priesthood, they
So
call it.
there's no black members?
There are there were people that would have joined it, but they were just like, well, thanks for joining the church. We'll take your 10%, but you can't ever go to the temple. You can't ever hold the
What?
priesthood. This happened all the way till 1978. And here's how I look at it now. Back then, I was like, "Well, it's not us. It's God. God's a dick. He's the one that doesn't like black people."
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think they are gonna say
here's what they
that.
were told. So the Mormon theology includes a belief in the pre-existence, that we were all children of Heavenly Father up there in heaven, milling around. Jesus comes up with a plan. Lucifer, his brother, comes up with a different plan. Some people like
Well,
Lucifer's.
hold on. Lucifer's Jesus'
G-
brother now?
Yeah. Oh, we're all brothers and sisters. Everybody. So
Well,
there's
well, that I know, yeah,
but yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Lucifer was Jesus' brother, and they were both kind of up there. They were kind of like uh, Greg and Marcia on the Brady Bunch. they were both top dogs. And
Oh, fuck.
Lucifer's plan involved less work, less risk, but it wasn't really the way that God wanted it. Jesus' plan involved a lot of risk and a lot of, not everybody's going to make it, but those that do make it because they make it for reals. Lucifer's plan was, we're going to force everybody. We're going to force everybody to be good. And so that, it's silly. Yeah, I know. And so there was a war up in heaven, and there was some fighting.
That's what that noise was.
That's what the noise was. Absolutely. And I was taught
Marsha.
Yeah, I was taught that so there's people that picked the devil's plan, Lucifer's plan. They're the third of the host of heaven who were fallen angels. So right off the bat, God loses a third of his family. So much for parenting, so much for being a celestial leader.
Yeah, no kidding.
You lose all these kids. And then I was taught, and I don't know if this is doctrine anywhere. I can't find it. I wouldn't want to find it. I don't care anymore. But this is what I was explained to me by either a parent or close church leader. The black people are the folks who didn't pick a side. They just sat on the fence. And that's why they got the curse of the dark skin. Now, in the early editions of the Book of Mormon, that same thing happens to those folks that came over to America. They're bad ones, the ones that fell away, gets cursed. So one day they're white and delights them just like everybody else, I guess. And then they get cursed because they're bad. So there's this thread running through the Mormon church that black, dark people, just dark, anybody. As I said, that
anybody that's not white.
Anybody that's not white, especially male, not white, to be honest with you, is cursed. And Hispanic people, they kind of get under the wire. And then there was this discussion, and this was like from early on, from the 20s, 30s, 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Well, what about Samoa? Because some they have a dark skin, but they have they're not really from Africa. What do we do about those guys? Oh, I don't know. Well, if you can show that there's no black blood in them, not one drop.
Polynesians, right?
Polynesians. What about the Inuit Indians? They're just. It was a shit show. It was a mess, and there was no consistency. Yeah, absolutely. Those guys were fine, but if so there was just. It was a mess, and it is thought by some scholars, that Mormon scholars, that maybe it was they think that Joseph Smith was fine with it, but Brigham Young was an asshole, just a real racist guy. And so they threw Brigham Young under the bus on that. So in 1978, the church is about to get yanked its tax exempt status because plastics were. I love this audience of yours. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love you guys. There's some thought that Joseph Smith wasn't as racist as Brigham Young, and Brigham Young's the one that kind of brought it up and made these rules. He has gone record as saying, if a white woman marries a black man, she needs to be killed and they'll go to hell. Oh, blood atonement, baby.
Holy motherfucker!
A mixed marriage is doomed from the start, and the only way that she can make up for that is if she's slaughtered. I'm surprised I'm surprised more people didn't. There wasn't a lot of mixed marriages. There wasn't very many mixed marriages. The worst thing you could do as a white person is to bring a black girl home. So of course my first kiss was with a black girl, and she was beautiful. I was a little it's as rebellious as I could get.
I got to put that up again. Because Mikey just married a white girl, so
yeah. Sorry, Kristen. You're gonna have to be blood atoned. No, and we. Of course, we know that's ridiculous now, but that was so the church. So in '78, the church is being pressured by the federal government. Like, listen, you can't have that policy anymore. You're such a racist. You can't. You're telling your members that the black people, they can't go to the temple, they can't hold the priesthood.
Horrifying.
We're going to pull your tax exempt status, and lo and behold, the prophet of God, who visits with God probably every day, life insurance papers, the prophet of God suddenly, miraculously pulls out of his ass. I mean, God tells him that no more, that ban is gone. No more. That was, and then since then, the church has kind of spun it as, well, it wasn't really, the church, God didn't really set that up. That was Brigham Young.
We had a
and
lunatic.
they ran over Brigham Young with both sets of tires when the bus ran over him. They
Really?
threw him under the bus really
They do a
hard.
couple burnouts.
Yeah. They
I
just
hope
made it.
so.
They made it sound like Brigham Young was speaking as a man back then, which spurns discussions of, well, how do you know if he's speaking as a man or if he's a prophet? Does he have to put a special hat on? What the hell? What? Even at least the Pope has hats. I mean, come on.
Yeah, all religions have funny hats. They're
Yeah,
great.
and so there was no way to tell that, and that's the thing people argue about all the time. It's like, well, Brigham Young was just speaking as a man, and so that was how they got out of that. But then the gay thing, and the church is very homophobic, very homophobic, and so, but with the gay thing, it's almost because it's so doctrinal that there's really no, and they came out just recently and said, yeah, well, if you're going to be a gay kid in our church, if your parents aren't, if they're gay, or sorry, if your parents are gay, and I might say this wrong, but correct me if I do, if somebody else is out there, but if your parents are gay, so two loving men that have a child, or two women that have a child, if their kid can't be baptized until they're 18, and the church brought that out, and people were a little shocked. I mean, even just your good run of the mill in the pews, they Latter-day Saint was like, what? Why are you doing that? And well, I'm sure they're going to reverse that. The church is like, no, we're not going to reverse that. And they reversed it later. They're like, oh, that's not, God, no, sorry about that. That's a real, they changed it. Yeah, our bad. That's man. That's not God. We have the God guy here, but apparently he got wires crossed up. So
or something.
That's who, and I didn't want to necessarily throw the Mormon Church under the bus on everything here, but there's just some real problems
when you need to.
Yeah, well, my point of this isn't that my point is that people who go with logic, evidence, reason realize that the science has now shown that your sexuality is not something you pick. It's not because you're not gay because you want to sin. You're not gay because you're
born that fucking way.
You're born that way. You're not gay because you were molested. That's how I kind of grew up. That you were probably molested. That's all. Now, I'm not saying that you're gay, you didn't get molested. I'm not saying if you're cis, you didn't get molested. But there was, in my mind, the reason person was gay was because they had been molested. I don't know how I squared that around. That was my answer, and I just went on from there. But now we know that's wrong. We know that's wrong. That's not the science. And so members who are we call them progressive.
People get molested of any sexual
absolutely
sex or gender or whatever.
Yeah,
everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't all turn gay. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. So that's I had a scoutmaster that was kind of bi-curious, and so that's a whole nother, the molestation thing is the church does have its own little problems as well. We throw the Catholics around.
Yeah.
But the protection of
they all do.
Yeah. So my point is that there's a lot of folks who have spent a little bit of time on the internet and a little bit of time with rationality and thinking that have said, you know what, I don't believe in the church anymore. I'll go because my wife and my kids go, and it's a really good social situation, and it really is. The LDS Church has a great method of helping you raise your kids. It's all hands on deck. Let's all, they have volunteers that help with your kids, take them scouting, and the young women, and there's programs for a lot of that stuff, which is pretty impressive. Now it's again male centered. The women don't do as cool things as the guys do. The boys.
It's an Abrahamic religion, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of women that are realizing that that are feminists like that. Mikey, nice to see you. Go ahead.
Breathing fire already now.
Just hit me with both barrels, brother. I'm so sorry.
My name is not Mikey anymore. It's Mike and Delightsome.
Mike and Delightsome. I like that. Because the people in the Book of Mormon were promised if they became righteous, they become light and delightsome, and white and delightsome, and then they changed it because it's so gosh dang racist. They moved it over to I think light and delightsome. Did you know about that, Mike? Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard about that. I was like, white and delight. You motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. That's why you out there in Utah, because we kick your ass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's racist from the ground up. It's racist in ways that I don't even realize. until it's pointed out to me. Just like that part, I didn't realize that it's all just light is good, white is good. And all the pictures of Jesus in the Mormon churches and in the temples, that guy's Joe Caucasian. He didn't come from the Middle East.
Right.
There's no fucking way he did.
He's from North Dakota. I mean,
or Utah.
Over Erie.
he's airy. He looks a little. You put a mustache on him, he looked like Adolf Hitler sometimes.
And
I mean,
I made the joke of like, you're like, oh, there's no way you would have ran through the forest holding those plates. And I was like, not with that attitude.
That was you.
And I was like, you know what? I bet someone's already put this on Google. So I Googled it. Tabunga plates of the dimensions Joseph Smith described would weigh between 53 and 86 pounds.
Yeah.
But there's more. Though we may never know the exact weight of the plates, the statements of others who handled them, as well as the scriptural references to their mobility, substantiate that weight was no barrier to conveying the plates in accordance with the purposes of God.
Yeah, God can magic them. Just magic them up.
Not only were they like one of the densest metals we have, but there was two of them, and they were different weights.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That would be even harder.
Yeah. And there's some legend out there. And I don't know where this came from, if it's scripture, or if it's church history, or just an urban Mormon legend. But yeah, that he was, when he finally got the plates, that first moment, like he took 20 steps, and then these bad guys, hey, get him, he's got the plates. I don't know if that's true or not. But he miraculously ran through the forest and got to his house and had a hard time hiding the plates. And that was part, I was still in there. I was still in the church when they're like, okay, it's because of the plates, and there's people that saw that. You do a little bit of research, 15, maybe 20 minutes. And the people who say they saw it didn't actually see it. They saw it with their quote unquote spiritual eyes.
That's what you should, and then your spiritual magnifying glass.
Yeah. If you close your eyes, you can see me on top of a white horse with your spiritual eyes. You see me? You can see me on that horse?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Close your eyes. Neil, close your eyes. Use your spiritual eyes. Come on. You got to
spiritual. What's this, like the pineal gland third eye bullshit? No.
Yeah. Don't look behind the curtain. But yeah, so that's what it was. It turned out that they, and they signed their names. And all this stuff, people still believe for some of this reason. But if they dig in a little bit, they'll realize they didn't sign their own names. They didn't even, that there was these people that said they saw the plates, and it wasn't true. So
these ridiculous, like, this is some like Iron Man shit. Like, that's like one of those strongman competition things. Like, all right, you got to. It's like those fucking Atlas stones.
Yeah.
My man ran through the forest with
toss or something.
He ran through the forest with 2 Atlas stones
clanking behind him. Yeah. Well, and see, he had claimed he'd found buried treasure way before this. It was a kind of a theme of his. He was a con man. He
must have had calves like grapefruits, like to move.
He was. Now, I'm not taking away the fact that he was probably a pretty stout kid back in the. They chopped down trees and all that stuff. But just that, and again, you hear all this, and you build up your testimony based on that, and then you find out he didn't even freaking use them. He looked into a hat put his head up and down into the hat as hard as he could to block out the light, and then he would say the story out to the guy who was writing it down, and he never even touched the plates.
Perfect.
And like, so what was all that about? Was that just some cosplay? Was that just some mini barefoot? Yeah. So somebody asked me this question. So in 1978, the prophet who got that super cool and very convenient revelation that blacks could now be full members and have the priesthood and go to temple, he wrote a book called The Miracle of Forgiveness. And in it makes you feel like a piece of shit every day of your life for doing anything wrong ever. That's an aside. But then in the middle of this, like at the end of chapter, I don't know where, 3, 4, 5, I don't know where it is, but at the end of the chapter, he's like, and speaking of interesting, this is a story received from so-and-so in 1828. And he goes into tell about the story about one of the church leaders. And I don't know which one it was. If I quote it, if I say his name, it's going to be wrong. Maybe David Whitmer. But one of the early church leaders was, riding his horse. and a large man who met him at eye level. This guy was on his horse, and the guy wasn't on the horse, walking by the side of him. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Cain. I'm cursed to earth, onto the earth with this dark skin, dark hair." And they talk for a minute, and then he goes and turns to look away, and then he looks back. Guess what? He's not there. Isn't that a cool ghost story? Great campfire story. And then this prophet of God who speaks to God, who's the spokesman for the whole wide world, goes on to talk about like how this was probably a true story, and it's interesting, and we believe that was Cain, yada yada yada. And then so the Mormon church people like, oh, that must be Bigfoot. That's how we get Bigfoot stories, because everything's got to tie in with something else. And that's it. There's no supporting documentation. It's just a ghost story. It's just a campfire story he throws in the middle of this book that's ripping you for petting or Levi loving or doing anything at all.
Levi loving.
Oh gosh, yeah. The Mormon church, sexuality in the Mormon church, God apparently, that's all he can think about is sex and who you're going to have it with and what position and where you're going to have it at. And this causes problems in real life marriages, because you're told no. You're not told how to make it loving, how to be nice, how to make it sensual, what's it for. You're just told don't ever do it, don't think about it. And girls, it's your fault because you're the problem. What were you wearing?
Why aren't you dressed more modestly?
Yeah, modest dressing, and it's you're responsible, because men are just animals and they can't take care of themselves and can't withstand. It's your job to make sure.
Right now, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your job. It's your job to keep this man pure so he can go on his mission. And if you have sex, you're going to ruin it for him and you, and then we'll make you marry each other. And so where was I going with this? Most of the book. Yeah, that's it. Most of the book was about that. Just like you can't pet, you can't. He describes what petting is, or any touching on the skin or over the clothes, or he just goes on and it's just a litany of all these things you can do wrong. Most of them sexual, and how you need to drop your knees.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, he has everyone's wife in his bed.
Yeah. This particular guy, there was no talk about, but yeah, Joseph Smith was sending guys away to go. Hey, go convert the. You need to go to, I don't know, we're Mars. In Ohio. You need to go to Florida, or you need to go to England. In the meantime, I'm going to go talk to your wife after you leave and tell her that I was told I have to marry her, and we're going to hook up. And the Mormon apologist will say, well, there's no evidence they had sex.
Of course not.
Come on. You're going to pull that card? There's no evidence Warren Jeffs had sex either with his victims, but he's in jail. So,
wait. Everybody hide. Nick just showed up.
Oh. Not Nick. Shit. I got to go. No, I don't know Nick. He probably has a camera. He's probably better than me.
I got a thing in the morning. I gotta get a full that.
Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of my transition. And I'm glad I went through what I went, because I wouldn't be where I am today. But I kind of wish I would have switched over to. I wish I would have shined that spotlight of rationality, evidence, logic, and reason on my beliefs sooner. I don't know if anything would have changed. I do feel bad that there's people that in my life that I care about that are still in that religion and still following along with that, but they are getting, every year they're getting a little more progressive and a little bit more of like, you know what, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to smoke pot. Maybe it's okay to have a drink of alcohol once in a while and no one's going to die. So I think I'm weaning them off that slowly and surely.
I think we should give them all ecstasy. They'll just yearn to be
drug them. Solution to everything.
They'll just be yearning to be touched so much.
Yeah.
Then they'll touch, and then they won't realize that they're dead. And then they're like, "Oh, you know what? I don't need the ecstasy anymore, but that really got me over the hump."
Yeah, that's true. I'm out.
That's all I needed. I just needed to really want to feel skin on me. And now I feel great.
Yeah, that's my story. It's just the shell finally broke, and I'm out. And I'll tell you another thing. What a great life! What a wonderful view of the world I have now. Because before this, this life was just kind of a dress rehearsal. You're supposed to just prove how good you can be away from Heavenly Father.
Like you're wiping your feet on the mat for the golden bride.
Exactly. You're just trying to prove you're just trying to prove to yourself and God and everybody else that you're a good person. So
but it cheapens this life.
Absolutely.
Right.
And now when I look at a freaking butterfly or a flower or a sunset, it's even more amazing because there's nobody behind it. There isn't anybody. That's
more awe-inspiring.
Yeah. And the human body is so much more amazing now. We can heal we can heal ourselves. Well, no, I mean, you get a cut, it heals itself. That's not God just shooting super magic dust at you. These are freaking amazing human bodies that are able to heal themselves up. And we only have, 70, 80 years at the most on this amazing planet. And that's
that wasn't always the case. That's thanks to medical science.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, science.
Yeah. Thank you, science. We can live past 40 now.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
Oh, he's the town elder. He's 18.
He should breed with all the wenches. Yeah, it's so much more amazing the life I have now with and I don't have to, used to when people would get sick, well, that means we got to pray to God, and if they died, I had this uncontrollable why did they die? Why would they? What? God, you didn't. Why couldn't you just bend the rule a little bit for this? But then somebody else doesn't die, who's kind of an asshole. Like, well, what? And so you do this. Yeah. You twist your mind. You go all these convoluted things in your head to make it all make sense. It's so much more gratifying to go through life and realize I'm not saying there's not a God. I just have no reason to think there is. No reason to think there is.
Yeah, that's, dude, I'm sorry, but I take that extra step and I go, it's just not possible. The entire concept of an omnipotent being is so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You can't have something like that.
And you can use logic to just prove, so if you know everything, then
if you are all knowing, then the entire thing, religion, is a setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Why are you going through these gyrations? Why do you put your seatbelt on?
Yeah.
If there's a God and you have an appointed time to die.
Bulletproof glass?
Wait, what?
Why does the Pope need a bulletproof glass car?
Absolutely.
This is things like what?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't make sense. But let's talk about Mike's honeymoon. Mike,
let's do that. Let's get Spencer.
Just kidding.
Breaking the rules here. We're gonna do that in the after party.
Okay. Right.
Now we always take a bit of a break, and I'll send you a new link, and you can hop in here with Mikey and some other friends of ours.
Nice.
And we'll ham it up for a couple more hours, but I do have to go eventually to pick up my prescription from Walmart because I'm all out of the blood thinners now for my DVT, with deep vein thrombosis, by the way.
Well, thanks again, science. You can't just pray that away?
No, unfortunately, no.
Can't.
No.
Have we tried?
No.
Let's try right now. Let's try right now.
Get to go away.
Wait, let me go talk to my cat about it. It will probably get better results.
God, I want you to fix Neil's deep thrombosis and also put 6.66 million in each of our accounts. That way we'll know that you're there.
Now he's going, you just blew it.
No, how hard would that be for him? Come on, 6.6.
A bank error in my favor.
A bank error in your favor.
Like Thanos with the Infinity Glove.
Yeah, it should be done already. And I haven't got a notice on my phone, so I don't think.
Hold on, let me check.
God sucks.
Wait, something just showed up in my spam mail.
I'm pretty sure it's not from your bank.
It says something about some prince says he needs $1,000 and then he'll give us $1 million. Is that the same thing?
And again, even if that 6.66 showed up, that would bear investigation. That doesn't mean there's a God.
That's right.
That bears investigation. Right. It could be somebody punking me.
Well, you got to remember though, Spencer. God's busy right now trying to find Tiffany over in Beverly Hills' keys to her brand new Jetta, rather than feeding all the starving kids over in Africa. Right? So.
There's a soccer game that Jameson needs to win right now, and God's just concentrating on him getting that ball over to the scrum. Yeah,
that's right. He's also wants the Calgary Flames to win their game tonight. So.
Well, like I heard the other day on your buddy Matt Dillhunt, he said something like, God is too busy not existing, so we have to jump in and help people.
That's right. So, exactly.
In fact,
well said.
So close on one quick little thing. I'm going to humble brag myself. Speaking of God not showing up, there's a local, most people in my neighborhood are Mormon. There's a local group for our Facebook group, and there's a gal that got on there, and she was just talking about some mental health issues, and I thought, my gosh, for somebody to talk about mental health on Facebook in front of everybody, she's got to really be having a rough time. So all her friends, everybody else around me was talking about, we'll send you prayers, sending you prayers. And I got on there. I'm like, yeah, sending wishes to wherever feels good. But what you need to do is tell me what night you want me to bring dinner, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Action. And I was a little irritated. I'm like, it's weird. I'm just doing this to show the Mormons not to be such dicks. But I ended up bringing her. I took her some dinner. I hope it was good. But I say that because you can still do all those things that you think about religion doing. You don't need the religion. You can do good things for people just because we're empathetic beings and we care about one another.
That's right. So, that's what humanism's about.
Yep. I'm going to shut up.
That's all right. We're going to talk about lots more of this and other fascinating and fun topics in the after party. But before we do that, Spencer, again, dude, thanks for jumping in, man. It was awesome actually getting to chat with you.
Well, I hope it wasn't disappointment. I hope it wasn't
disappointment. Fuck no. Everyone in the chat's going, this guy's a great cat. So,
okay.
No, not a disappointment at all, man.
I got worried there last minute. I'm like, oh, gee, what if this is just stupid? What if this is just no one wants to hear my
no
stupid
such thing
shit?
as stupid.
Okay.
Every story has the potential to help someone.
Well,
that's why I do.
Yours wasn't worse than mine, so you're fine.
Is that the benchmark?
Yep. It's pretty low for everybody.
Well, I want
the blow bar's been set.
I do want to find out more about both of you, and I'm looking forward to following you guys and listening to these podcasts or the YouTubes.
Yeah, I'm sure Nick will want to join us, and Kyle will probably want to join us, and Ollie will want to join us, and B will be in here. And
somebody asked me if I had a YouTube channel. I do not. I don't have any. Sorry.
He doesn't have a camera yet.
Yeah, I don't have a camera.
I say we do a GoFundMe to get Spencer a camera, get him active on YouTube.
Here, I'm gonna pray for his camera right now. Hold on.
Oh, the Amazon truck just pulled up. What?
Hallelujah.
Notice it took Amazon to deliver it. God couldn't magic it into my hands. Jeez, what a
lame God.
Shit. What a jeez.
Well, God. I could give you some pointers on how to make that happen, Ben, but I'm kidding. Well, first of all, before we head into the after party, it's my usual ending credits and stuff like that. Yep. Get your fingers out of your hair, Mikey.
Thanks, guys.
Taking my braids down.
I know. It's going to take him a week, apparently, he told me so.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so, all the wonderful, awesome folks in the chat. As you heard tonight, you guys are a great chat. Thanks to Spencer, who mentioned that tonight, and I quite agree. You guys are fantastic. You're always there. You're always helping us, make us laugh, and answering some of the hard questions or funny questions, and we appreciate you all very, very much.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, folks.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Jason from Dragons and Genesis pointed that out earlier. He said, "Hit the like button, or it'll hit you," which I think is funny.
In the face.
If you don't hit like and subscribe, God will punish a masturbator out there right now.
That's right. Ow! And of course, thanks to my amazing patrons. You guys are the lifeblood of the show. You really do. Every little bit that you guys do helps me out huge. So I appreciate you all. And I think I'm at 21 now. So we're gonna actually, what I'd like to do, Mike, is have a ticker tape with all the usable names on there that we can run. So we're gonna start doing that, and as we get more, we'll add them to the ticker tape so that everyone can be seen and stuff like that. So watch for that in the future, kids. And of course, don't forget that Randolph and myself are starting up our own call-in show, Canadiana style, called True North Talk. And it'll be coming up pretty soon once the studio's been finished being built. So head over to our channel and give it a sub. And you can also learn more about the show on www.truenorthtalk.ca. And don't forget that myself and Mikey has been on the show a couple times, or a few times now, I think. Yeah, something like that. The revamped, relaunched Nonprofits, which is an ACA product that runs at 3 p.m. Central between Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience. It's a lot of fun. I'm in on the Halloween episode, so that's going to be fun because I think I'm going to have a different mask on for every category, which should be kind of cool. And it's official. this Saturday, we are back with Atheists Drinking Out Loud, 2 p.m. Pacific time. So Andy, Seamus, and myself. Andy's got his own channel, which this show airs on. It's called Laughing at Disbelief. Give him a sub. And Seamus, you'll know from the Free Thought Prophets. And myself, we get together and we usually have a guest. We'll figure out who the guest is going to be. We'll have to do that pretty soon because it's almost Saturday for crying out loud. So tune into Laughing at Disbelief at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, this Saturday, and the last Saturday of every month to check out our hilarities that we do on that show as well. Unfortunately, right now I can't drink, but I'll probably sneak a beer in for this one.
Ooh.
You know, because I'm just bad that way.
He's a rebel.
And student Dr. Ben's going to yell at me. He always does for the drinking. But that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. Again, Spencer, thanks, man. You were an awesome guest tonight. I appreciate you coming on.
Good job, Spencer.
Thank you both. Thank you for making me feel so welcome.
Well, you're from here on out, dude. You're always welcome into any of my after parties.
Gosh, thanks.
Anytime.
One of us.
Except for this one. Well, I'm just kidding. Yeah, one of us, yeah. But so all that want to get involved with the after party, please message myself or Mikey through Twitter or Facebook or whatever form of platform you feel like using to get in touch with us, and we will send you a link.
Send us a raven.
Yes, yeah. Send to these what is it, carrier pigeons, or they're extinct, right? You know what, dude? Yeah. I just sold my homing pigeons for the 21st time on eBay. So I know.
Some poor guy.
I know. 21st time. So, all right. So until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of the interviews, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we will see you guys next time. And congratulations, Mikey, on getting married.
Woo!
We'll see you guys next time. Untangled.